Hello, everybody. Dr. Rick Wallace dropping in on you. I hope that everything is going well in your world. I hope that in some way today you are intent on making an impact in the world around you. There's so much going on that requires attention on so many different levels that it can be overwhelming. But what you have to do is you have to wake up every day and you have to be intentful about something you intend on doing that will make a difference, that will be considered significant, that will touch a life. Um, Start there. Don't get yourself in situations where you're constantly frustrated. That's a part of life. It's going to happen. But what I want you to do is wake up each and every morning and say, you know what? I'm going to stop by the grocery store. When I go into the bank, I'm going to find somebody that I can literally be kind to. I'm going to find somebody, or I'm going to go by the school and I'm going to drop off some backpacks. I'm going to find something to do that is outside of yourself. In other words, it requires you to do something for someone else and expect nothing in return. That's the way you start to give. That's the way you start to build. That's the way you start to make a difference. No matter what your gift is always going to be about serving somebody. And I just want to encourage you because I know, and I share it with you guys, that the work that you do when you're trying to be a difference maker, it's not easy. It's difficult, it's challenging, it's frustrating. And if you're not careful, it can be overwhelming. And especially with men, we tend not to want to share the fact that we're going through. We've been trained to say, I'm good. We've been trained to say, I'm all right. I've got this. And you need to have it. You need to find a way to have it, but you better have some brothers on side of you that can stand beside you and help you stand up when you're weak, help you push forward when you are weary, because it's going to happen. We need more community. We need more self love. We need more unity and working together. We need less friction, less dissension, less assaultive behavior amongst ourselves. We've got to find a way to become one. We've got to find a way to become a unit. I was actually going to stop by here and talk to you about something someone dug up that I wrote, I don't know how long ago, about the three different types of Negro slave and how that translates into three distinctive personalities and characteristics in today's world. As far as Black people are concerned, and how it's important to know the difference. I'm gonna have to come back and deal with that and give you that a little bit later. But because something came across my table that's not as thought provoking and engaging as that conversation, but definitely forceful and something I think that needs to be uh, addressed. I'm about, for those who are new to me that are not from the old channel, if you're from the old channel, you know what's up. For those of you who this is the first time you've gotten to know me since this channel shifted more towards the African American enigma and addressing things that are going on in the Black community and less to do with what I do in my work with the Visionetics Institute, Odyssey Media Group, and other things within Rick Wallace Enterprises. If this is new to you, less than 2 months, it's been 2 months, I guess, since this shift has taken place since the old channel was taken down. You may not know. I'm about solutions. I don't get on here for the sensationalism. Sometimes the topics are hot topics and they'll take off, but that's not why I'm here. I'm here to deliver substance. I'm here to deliver a challenge to be critical in our thinking. I'm here to challenge you to be willing to look for the solutions to problems. So, in essence, when I come with something, I want to talk about the solution. I'm going to highlight the problem because you have to understand the problem in order to create the solution. But just talking about racism, just talking about miseducation, just talking about mass incarceration, just talking about gentrification and the lack of group economics, talking about post-traumatic slave syndrome and complex trauma and traumatic injury and all the things that I've talked about and written about in great detail means absolutely nothing if we're not talking about the solution, if we're not talking about healing, if we're not talking about empowerment. And that's what I'm about. But every now and then there comes this topic that just has to be had. And I want to do it from a place of respect to both sides. That's important to me. I'm 52 years old. So the idea of getting on here trying to go toe to toe, attack somebody to build a reputation or a brand, uh, that's long. I'm about building. I'm about being measured in what I say, not because I'm fearful, but because I care about my brothers and sisters more than I care about my ego. And that's the thing that we've got to gain an understanding of. I want to encourage those who come to this channel to support the work we do. My wife, and those who support us and work for us and with us at the Odyssey Project. My wife, a childhood sexual abuse survivor, a rape survivor, all while she was a minor, has rose from the ashes and built an unbelievable life. I literally met her as one of her counselors or therapists, coaches, whatever you want to call it. We worked together for a year. She went on about her business to do something. She wrote a book and everything. And when she came back by me, I already knew who she was because I had worked with her for a year. She said, "Hey, how you doing?" I said, "I want to marry you." And I'm dressing it a little bit, but really, I never dated my wife. I counseled her, and I sent her off to heal. When she came back healed, I said, "You're my lady. You're my queen. Let's build." And that's what happened. Our first date was after we were married. That is this beautiful woman that I absolutely love. And if you haven't met her, some of her videos in there, but read about it. Her book is Ghettos Forgotten Daughters, where she talks literally about her life and her transformation, how she grew up in the abuses she started experiencing early in life, being sexually abused at the first time at 5 years old, being raped at 14, she and then raped again at 15, and then being able to make, after making poor decisions because of all she's been through, overcome all of that and be a force. She's working with girls in the juvenile justice system. She's working with girls in schools. She's doing her thing, and I'm so proud of her. But and with me, my primary focus is Black Men Lead Rite of Passage Initiative, where we're sitting up and we're properly socializing young Black males to keep them from doing crazy stuff that puts them in the crosshairs of the justice system or works against us. We need to stop killing each other. We need to stop putting ourselves in a position to be a part of the prison, private prison industrial complex, or the prison industrial complex, period. So, anyway, I encourage you to support the work we're doing. I was about to talk about what I said I was about to talk about, the whole three types of blacks. We go back to three types of slaves, and we can come back to three types of blacks today, and you can still find that three distinct type of black people. But we're gonna have to talk about that later because someone brought to my attention that um, the Nupes Kappas are pretty hot at Lil Boosie because he was wearing a sweatshirt that was a Kappa, that had the Kappa letters on it. Anybody that's been to college, anybody that's aware of Greek, pledging Greek, Greek organizations, alphas, kappas, omegas, deltas, sigmas, on down the line, AKs, all that stuff. If you're familiar with that, you understand that there's certain things you don't do. But if you're not familiar with it, it may be alien. Now, I understand that Boosie has a brother who's a Kappa, but that doesn't mean that they've ever sit down and talked about the do's and the don'ts. But what I want to talk about is not the fact that, it's a big violation for you to be wearing something that is assigned to one of the Greek organizations if you haven't pledged, if you haven't been officially accepted into the organization through whatever means, whether it was pre-graduate, postgraduate, whatever, however you are a part of it. Okay, here's where I have a problem, and I want to say this respectfully, but that's sort of a little chip on my shoulder, so I'm being very careful in how I set this up. Um, there were some threats. I can see and I can understand if those are your rules and you want that type of respect. I have no problem with it on the surface. I have, the reason I never pledged Kappa Omega, which were the two that recruited me the most when I was in college, was because of the association of Greek and some of the things that they wanted me to do, I wasn't willing to do. And I've always been a renegade. Matter of fact, the biggest tattoo I have is the one that goes completely across my back and halfway down that says renegade. I've never been one to be pulled in and be under someone else's control and at someone else's call. I don't mind being at the pleasure of anybody that is going for what I'm going to, but being controlled by someone I just had problems with. I'm not saying anything wrong with it. I'm saying that's me. It's always been me. So I roll solo. I was cool with pretty much everybody around the campus. I've been cool since. Matter of fact, one of my best friends is a Nupe. Shoot, my ex-wife is a Delta. Her sister is a Delta. My daughter is a Delta, and one of my son's mother is a Delta. Yes, I wish I could say I got married young, stayed married, and all my kids are by one woman. It's what I treat my little boys, but I tell them life happens, and life definitely happens before I grew up. So I do have children by more than one woman. Um, but I love all my kids, and I have nothing negative to say about my exes ever. That's my personal thing. It doesn't matter what they have to say about me. I refuse to speak ill of a woman who bore my kid, bore my seed. But anyway, there's a lot of deltas around me, and so I'm very much aware of the pride that goes into it. I just watched my daughter, matter of fact, walk across the stage on the 6th, was it the 13th? The 13th of December, walk across stage and then do her little Delta dance with her sisters and everything after the fact. I watched it and everything. And I can see the pride and I can see the sisterhood and the brotherhood involved in becoming a Greek. I can see that. But see, to me, there's a deeper brotherhood. There's a brotherhood of blackness that should transcend any other brotherhood. There's a brother of blackness that should be able to understand the dynamic of where we live, how we operate, and what we go through. There is a brotherhood that just by being a part of this brotherhood, you become a target. Nobody has to see you wear a particular type of sweatshirt to know you're in this brotherhood. Nobody has to look at your degree or anything else to know that you are part of this brotherhood. You don't have to say a word and people will know that you are a part of this brotherhood. It is the brotherhood that you are born into, and that's the brotherhood of being a black man. And why am I talking? I'm talking about this because we find it easy when we feel someone in our brotherhood of blackness who violates some other ordinance or principle or code of something we joined to be hostile. Now, we find a bunch of reasons to be hostile. It's just not Greeks and it's just not Kappas. And I'm not saying that they don't have a right to ask people not to wear their stuff. I think that if you know that it's a no-no, you shouldn't be doing it. And based off of Boosie's response, he simply didn't know. But I have a problem with personal threats of violence to black men for disrespecting your organization, but no threats of violence for white men who disrespect your bloodline, your family, your sisters, your brothers that aren't a part of your organization. And I'm really edgy right now because I'm disappointed in the Nupes specifically because I went to battle for one of their brothers all summer since last March. I went to battle for one of their brothers, Kevin Bow Battle, who another Nupe who's the friend I told you about, a real close friend, Dr. Michael Blanchard, came to me and said, "Man, today I just found out one of my brothers got shot by a white guy, and I'm pretty sure it's racially motivated. Can you get involved?" I got involved. I went to fight. I enlisted some help of some other people. Then this brother that's up there, again, not a part of the Nupe organization, went and took lead for me because I'm not in Dallas, and he really is the person that deserves all the credit. But he went to battle and did some great work. But we fought, we wrote letters, we made calls, we counseled, we did everything. And the one thing that I was looking for and asked for and wasn't able to get was the backing and the condemnation, an official letter from the organization condemning what had happened and challenging the police chief and challenging the mayor and challenging the district attorney's office to actually take action. We finally got charges, but it took 4 months. It took this clown who had killed our brother and he's our brother, not because he's a nuke, because he's a black man. This clown killed our brother, and the only reason we got him is he was so stupid. He fooled around and shot his girlfriend, tried to act like it was an accident, got caught up with that. That put him in the crosshairs. That then gave validation to there's something going on with this guy, because now he's stalking the girlfriend of Kevin Battle, who stood by his side no matter what. And that's my thing. My thing is, first of all, we are threatening violence behind a sweatshirt. I am not trying to marginalize the rules and the codes of Kappas, Omegas, Alphas, Deltas, Sigmas, and AKAs, and none of that. I'm not. What I'm trying to say is there has to be, if we're ever going to get somewhere, there has to be a code that transcends. Because so you are a brother of something before you ever pledged. And while I can even sit up and say, okay, handle it, it should not have been handled openly like that, where you have black men threatening other black men, but the same black men that are threatening another black man won't threaten the white man that's killing black men. I have a problem with that. Again, this is not telling me saying that that shouldn't be a code. I've never violated that code. I never wanted to pretend I was something, a part of something that I wasn't. I've seen some of the work that has been done by Kappas, by Omegas, by some of the sisters, by Alphas. I've seen the work. I've seen some of the good things that have been done. I'm not trying to step on that. I'm not trying to dismiss that. But nobody's untouchable. Not where I'm coming from. Not where I'm sitting. Nobody's untouchable. You can't be a black man and join a group and makes you untouchable. That's the problem. Too many times we get involved in corporate America and we think we're untouchable because we're in a place and a part that gives us a different viewpoint or perspective than the vast majority of our brothers and sisters. See, when I moved through life and I started to gain ground and gain traction, I didn't separate from those who I left behind. I made sure I stayed connected because I didn't want to lose focus on why I'm really here. I'm not here only to serve me. I'm not here only to get accolades and degrees and titles and hopefully money that will put me in a nice position. I'm here to ensure that my advantages are lended to those who don't have them. My voice is given to those who don't have a voice. My understanding is given to those who don't have an understanding. That I speak and I stand for those who are unable to do so for themselves at the current moment. That I don't become a part of a system that will use the talented 10% in order to hold back the 90. This isn't me championing anything about Boosie. This could have been anybody. This could have been a no-name person that got hemmed up and threatened. My whole thing is checking somebody about wearing your stuff. I don't got a problem about it. But when you start saying, I'm going to chin check you, I'm going to hurt you, I've even heard something as far as killing somebody because they're wearing. My thing is, if you've been to college, you know, if you weren't pledged and you hadn't crossed and you got caught in one of those things, you were going to get beat down. But everybody didn't go to college. Everybody, you got a lot of people that know what Kappa is because they've been to the Kappa Beach party. They know about the fun stuff that they do, but they may not understand the code or they may not take the code serious. You got people who probably think you probably got people that think that if I can buy it, I can wear it. And don't understand, the significance of that and the implications therein. That could be a case. My thing is, again, we go back to blackness. See, that's something that I refuse to be separated from. My blackness. I've lost clients because they wanted me to tone down some of the rhetoric that was moving across the airwaves and digital things, because they could Google me and they could see the things that I was doing for them, but they could also see what I was saying in support of my people. And they, by being associated with me, felt that could bring some pressure to them and that they could end up having a negative impact. And they pressured me to be a little bit more tamed in my speech. And I said, I will not. And I was willing to deal with that. And I have dealt with that. I have lost 2 of my top 3 clients in the last 5 years. 5 or 6 years, whatever it's been. And I'm okay with that. What I will not give up is my blackness. What I will not do is tone it down. What I will not do is play safe. What I will not do is attack my people. I will call my people out and say we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. I will challenge my people and say we need to be doing more. What I will not do is be used as an instrument against my people. I will not show. I mean, it's just certain things we can't do. Someone asked me earlier about the violence. Why are we so violent? And one of the things that the excuse was that these people were threatening him was it was disrespect. Now, you've heard me talk about my Black Man Lead program and the research that I did that led me to building it. Remember, we're about solutions. See, I don't want to just talk about the problem, I want to talk about solutions. So I did research on African American adolescent and young adult male violence. You know, what they like to call black on black crime. And I understood that black on black crime, first of all, is a myth, unless you're going to use it in the same sentence, in the same environment with white on white crime, Asian on Asian crime, Latino on Latino crime, because people tend to have violent acts against those that they live around. And since we live such segregated lives in a supposedly integrated world, 9 times out of 10, violence is going to take place with people who look like you. 84% of white people who are killed by other white people. And so the black on black crime narrative doesn't really measure up. But do we have too much violence in our community? Absolutely. We got to contribute some of that to poverty. Wherever the poverty line is highest, so is criminality. Why? Because if you can't make a living working and you can't get some type of subsidy or assistance, the only other option to feed you and your family is crime. There are 3 ways: you work or own a business, you get government assistance, or you're a part of the crime, the criminal world. Whether you're pimping, whether you're dope dealing, whether you're hustling, and now the big thing is sex trafficking and human trafficking. And those are the big things. But you got people running all kind of organized crime scams because they are part of poverty. You got the boosting uh, population that go in and steal tons of clothes out of department stores and sell them hand to hand. You got artificial and what you call it, fake bags, fake shoes, fake everything. That you got that. You got all kind of ways people are creating to feed their families if they can't get a job, hold a job, or own a business or get subsidies. That's 3. You either earning an income, getting subsidies and assistance, or you're some part of a criminal world. Period. That's it. So we have to give time to that. But the other thing is, we found when it comes to violence specifically, that the number one cause of violence in African American adolescent and young adult males is a feeling of being disrespected. When you have a feeling of being disrespected, and you have no academic, economic, or influential power to address the violation, you result to violence. The natural response to when I want somebody not to do something to me and I can't convince them any other way is to physically make them pay for it. It is also an idea and a concept that is supported and rewarded in the community. The second thing, which is another thing that we address even more, the number 2 cause of African American adolescent and young adult violence is the lack of proper racial socialization of young black males. We haven't socialized them into black manhood. We have not prepared them to be pro-social, powerful, influential, impactful, and successful in their environment. We haven't taught them what it means to be a black man. In Black Man Lead, the first thing that we teach is you are to respect, love, and protect the black woman, not just the woman that you are mated with, any black woman. One of the things that I want our women to do is walk into a situation where they're a little uneasy, and because it's white men and other people there, and see a black brother over in the corner and go, because they know that if that black man there, he's about to tear that whole place up if anything happens to her. That's what we're teaching. The number one, before a black man is to provide, he is to protect. That's what they're taught. See, you might not be able to get a job for a minute. You might get a little behind in the bills. But if you can breathe and you can stand up, you can protect. That's the one area you should never fail in. No matter what they do, you should be willing to die to defend. You should be willing to die to defend. And so that is the two. So then there are three what I call commoners or common factors. They're almost always present when you got the type of violence we see in the Black community. The first is they were a victim of violence themselves, even in the home, beaten by parents, beat up by bigger brothers, just in some way experienced violence. The second way is they've witnessed violence. That's almost everybody in the hood. You've seen somebody get jumped. You've seen somebody get shot, stabbed, and other things. And then finally is urban hassle. What is urban hassle? Urban hassle is what the environment and the things that take place in the hood that make it the hood. In the East, on the East Coast and in the Midwest, L trains going by the house all the time. L trains are extremely loud. That's one. Sirens in the middle of the night, gunshot in the middle of the night, people arguing in the hallways of apartment buildings, being harassed on the way to school by gang members, having to navigate through drug deals, seeing junkies laying out on the street, seeing the homeless laid out on the street. That's urban hassle. That also puts you at a higher risk of violence. It puts you psychologically on the edge, sociologically in strain, and it increases. So when we're talking about taking measures to reduce the level of violence, we got to look at it from that perspective. We got to deal with those issues. We got to teach them a better way of understanding and defining respect, how to cope with disrespect, how to respond to disrespect. Then we got to properly socialize them into an idea and a philosophy of who they are as men. We've got to also socialize them into the idea that they're needed, because they are hearing on a constant basis, we don't need you. We don't need you. The government started this back in the 60s when they sit up and said, we'll pay your rent, but he can't be there. We'll give you food stamps, but he can't be there. Now, it was on us to sit up and say, no, we'll figure it out. But they sit up and they decide. They were told in the Moynihan report, a report that was actually entitled The Negro Family, A Case for National Action, written by Daniel Patrick Moynihan, that said, and it's more affectionately known now as the Moynihan report. But it said that instead of spending millions and millions back then, it would be billions now, but millions and millions of dollars into social programs like food stamps, like welfare, like that, which was actually initially created for women and children of soldiers who went off to World War II and didn't come back. But now it's going to be given to families that the man is initially still in the house when it happens. Because you got to understand, at 1960, 75% of Black children were born in the two-parent households. So between then and now, we're talking about 72% being born in the single-parent households. And the disruption started then because he told them, instead of putting all that money into social programs, take it and create government jobs, give it to Black men, and let Black men take care of their family. They made Black men irrelevant by, at the time, that was like a 50% Black male unemployment rate. Then those who had jobs were underemployed, underpaid. They couldn't take care of their families. And then they said, here, we'll give you housing. We'll give you food stamps. We'll give you welfare. But he can't be there. Now, in other groups, that was not the rule. But anyway, I digress on that. What I'm trying to get at is that we have a problem and we've got to fix it. And it doesn't help when you've got groups that are supposed to be educated, refined, and thinkers acting on a primitive level behind something that pales in comparison to what your people are going through. Yes, it's a violation. Yes, I understand it. Yes, I've always respected it. But it's a pale comparison to the Black brothers who are being shot to death in the street without retribution. It's a pale comparison to your own brother who was shot in the head while simply trying to ask his neighbor what he said to his grandson. That was a time to stand up and show anger, frustration, and a willingness to be hostile if necessary. That was a chance. That was a time. That's what I'm trying to get across here. We've got to set an environment that is conducive to growing strong Black men who know how to respond to negative situations. We can't see our elite acting the way we're telling them not to act. We can't see our elite putting something before their Blackness. Now, we understand for the most part, Kappas are going to be Black. We understand that. Okay, so that is a part. Well, then there has to be a representation of the purest part of it, because whether you put on that, whether you put on that sweatshirt, that T-shirt, that cap, whatever, whether you wear whether you're walking around with the cane, whatever, you're still a Black man. You can sit up and denounce your membership to Kappa Alpha Psi, and you're still gonna be a Black man. When you walk out in the street and you're being judged on whether you're dangerous or not, or whether you should be shot and killed, you're not going to be judged on whether you're a Kappa or Alpha or an Omega. You're going to be judged on the fact that you're Black and you might be wearing a hoodie. We've got to do a better job. We've got to do a better job. Hold on 1 second. Let me see something. There you go. All right, Erlene, we finally got you back as an administrator on the new site. So I appreciate any help you can give me, because you know I don't pay attention to all that. But what am I saying? And I'm done pretty much. But my thing is, I think that there's a way that we can do this with being respectful to one another. If you see a person, if they're being all out respectful, then we have to deal with it in a certain way. But I don't know what kind of message we're sending when we're more willing to go to war behind a sweatshirt than we are a Black man being killed, young Black kids being miseducated, young Black kids being manhandled in the classroom as if they were thugs, tossed around. I'm talking about young girls tossed around by quote unquote resource officers. What are they resourcing? What kind of resource are they when all they do is bring violence and handcuffs to babies? There should be no handcuffs in elementary and middle school. And it shouldn't be any officers in any school unless there's actually an act of violence that warrants it. We grew up in schools. We had our moments where we got into it and we got riffs. Nobody were picking up cases for a fight at school. Now they're giving our kids cases as early as 5 years old, handcuffing them. They're criminalizing them socially and psychologically. They are normalizing the idea of being viewed as a criminal, and it's setting in as a part of the identity of our children. That's what we should be focusing on. That's what we should be upset about. That's what we should be standing against. That's what we should be uniting against. So my challenge is, let's get together and come up with a way that we can do something about gentrification in our communities. Let's come up together and do something about the miseducation of our youth. Let's come up with a program that will allow our Black men who are re-entering society after being incarcerated to properly acclimate and become a positive force in their community. Let's make sure we can reduce the recidivism rate, that we can cut it. We're talking about 75% of our men who come home go back. That's why we have this constant gap. Let's create resources. Let's be an answer. Let's be a solution. Let's be a movement. I've talked about Black Man Lead for years. I've gotten young boys brought to me for me to work with. I've got people calling me, asking me, and I'm there. I'm answering questions. I'm trying to do everything. But nobody's putting the type of energy into getting behind something that's working that they are putting into wanting to jump somebody, wanting to shoot somebody, wanting to. There's a whole bunch of them out there that want to hurt us. If you got some stuff you need to get off your chest violently, I'm pretty sure one of them got something that you can be upset about that they're doing. We need to be more invested in protecting our daughters. We've got 75,000. It's no longer 64,000. We got 75,000 Black women and girls missing. And they're literally disappearing from under our noses every day. We fighting over a sweatshirt. Yes, yes, yes. I understand it's more than the sweatshirt. It's a principle involved. I respect the principle, but you cannot tell me that principle is more important than the fact that we're losing our women to sex and human and sex trafficking. That our babies at very early ages are becoming targets. That you can no longer drop your daughter off at the mall and feel like she's safe and okay because she's amongst a lot of people. That's where a lot of them are being targeted. That we need that type of energy directed at solutions that are going to put us in a better position to rise to the top. It shouldn't solely be about you and your organization and what you're doing. It should be what your organization is doing to help the less fortunate be in a better position or be in the same type of situation that you're in. If that's not what you're doing is empty. If what you're doing isn't helping other people get to where you're at, it's empty. We've got to do a better job. Like I said, there's no shortage of sorors and frat brothers in my family and around me, some very close. And I love them. And, it's whatever. Like I said, my brother Michael Blanche, man, is a Nupe to the heart. But the work we do is in no way connected to the Nupes. He does what he does in supporting me and my work and me working with him solely based on our love for our Black brothers and sisters. And like I said, when I was going to bat for one of your brothers, I would have loved to have all of y'all, the entire national organization, at my back. And I'm almost certain that it's somebody in that organization that was more equipped to go at this than I was. But I took it because it meant something to my brother, Dr. Blanchard. And I saw his pain. And I said, okay, we're going to war. We're not going to stop until we get what we want. And we ran into a lot of stuff that never made it to the table for the public to see because it wasn't for the public to see. We fought through a lot of bull crap that we shouldn't have had to fight through. That could have easily been handled better if we had the backing of an organization with that type of pull, that type of movement. But it's got to be more than about fun. It's got to be, and don't get me wrong, I'm not unaware of the work that's being done in a lot of instances. When I'm saying it's got to be more in the trenches, it's got to be more intense. It's got to be something that we can look up and say, okay, we've got people coming up out of this. Buying somebody something for Christmas, no intrinsic value. Even buying backpacks, no intrinsic value. We need to empower kids to come out of this. That's education. That's creating an environment where they can thrive. That's stopping gentrification in our neighborhood so that we can maintain some stability and that we can pursue at different levels the ability to build wealth. All of these things that are happening has got to come through some policy changes, some movement of currency and financial resources. It's going to take all of this. We have to do better. We have to. And yes, to the last couple of statements, that was my point, man. Let's direct some of that energy that we got at our own at them. If I saw that, maybe I wouldn't be so upset about it. But We love to turn in on each other, man. We become straight up killers and G's when we dealing with each other, and they running amok, and we won't say nothing. They shooting up our brothers. They manhandling and body slamming our women, and we ain't saying nothing. Hell, George Zimmerman still walking around, but we got all these G's, and I'm not just talking about Greek organizations right now. I'm talking about everybody that's a straight up G when it comes to one of us. This clown still walking around. The last I heard, he was trying to sue somebody. Uh, I'm like, never mind. Look, we've got to do better. We are going to have to do better. Like I said, I hopefully shared some things with you to give you an understanding of what I've actually put into being an instrument of change for our people. I hope that you can see it. I hope that you can kind of gain it. I would love to have your support. I would love to have people join in. Uh, I'm about being unapologetically black. I'm not anti anything unless you're against black. I'm about letting people do what they need to do and live their life unless you are living your life on the back of a black person, on the suffering of black people, on the ignorance of black people, on the suppression of black progress. Then you are a problem. And I'm going to speak on it. I'm going to stand on it. And I'm going to do it until I stop breathing or until my people are liberated. Either one works for me. I'm not going to sit back. I could easily retreat into comfort. I've learned how to navigate this system, for whatever reason, as long as I ain't talking about the issues that white people are creating for black people, white people tend to like me for some reason until I start talking about what they're doing to black people, which is pretty often. And they kind of get at a distance from me. But if I want to play, you know, the domesticated Negro, which is different from the house Negro, for those who don't know, and definitely not the field Negro, I could do it. See, the field Negro was the Negro who was the most marginalized, most mistreated, whooped the most, manhandled the most, but never identified with the master, never wanted to be there, saw themselves as a slave, and wanted nothing more than to get away. The house Negro was probably a mulatto, light complected, was brought into the house, lived in the house, probably in the attic or the basement, and was, allowed to have certain things that was in the house, but they were treated better, wore nicer clothes, and they were different. They didn't have the desire to run, but they didn't identify with their masters. They still knew they were slaves. The domesticated Negro was the one who actually identified with the master, thought that he or she had an investment into what the master owned. Master we, like Malcolm will say, master we sick, master we got a nice property going on, master we. And if I were to think about something that would help you understand what I'm trying to relate, uh, Stephen on Django Unchained would be the domesticated Negro, the one that will be used to keep all Negroes in check, the one that will feel slighted if a slave escaped. See, the one in the house would be worried that the master would get upset if somebody would escape, but they're not personally offended by it. The domesticated Negro would literally be personally offended by the other Negroes who wanted to get away because he felt or she felt that it would hurt them. See, I could play that game. I could be a part of the misleadership class if I wanted to. I have the knowledge. I know how to talk. I could share things. I could put a bunch of stuff out there that would mislead my people. But that's not who I am. I will never be that person. I would never be okay with being that person. I'm going to be the person that's going to sit up and say, we can. We can be everything we want to be. It's not going to be easy, but we got to get away from being so dangerous to one another in so many ways. I'm going to get off it because I could go on about this all day. Go on about this all day. I wonder I could be wrong, and somebody you can correct me if I'm wrong. I wonder if it was Jay-Z wearing that sweatshirt instead of Boosie, if it would have been the same response. Just something to think about. Anyway, I'm gonna get out of here. Like I said, I could really use your support. Me, my wife, and the work we're doing could really use your support. There's always going to be a paragraph in the description box of how you can give. You can give by clicking the link and going to the site, or you can give through the Cash App account that we've set up for the organization. But we definitely need your support. On that note, I've got to get out of here. There's a bunch of other stuff I've got to do. Looking at the time. So once again, thank you guys for stopping by. I'm out.